Welcome to the Insight Thru Experience Podcast. A podcast created to provide information about what life is like inside the most specialized special tactics organization in the U.S. Air Force. In these episodes, we'll be bringing you the experiences from many of our experts, ranging from our human performance optimization staff, our combat mission supporters, as well as our special warfare operators. Our main objective with these podcasts are to provide the listener with a unique look inside our culture of excellence. Now, sit back, relax, take some notes, prepare to hear from some of the Air Force's finest. Thank you for joining us on the Insight Thru Experience Podcast. All right, here we are, episode number 5, our last selection episode where we're looking at it from the candidate's perspective. So to build the scene for you, these guys just did exfil the night before. They got about 6-7 hours of sleep. We bring them down into the classroom and they start doing their peer feedbacks on a computer. While they're doing that peer feedback, again, I had each of them go into a room individually and answer these 6 questions one more time for the audience. And for this time, even though the questions are the same and some of the questions are kind of forward focused, you get to hear the guys process what they learned from the past week and how they can translate that into moving forward more effectively. So really interesting. Some other things that are weighing on them right now is they haven't been told whether they're hired or not. That won't come until the following day. So that stress is still there in the back of their minds. Is what they did going to be enough? And just to reveal what happened, some of these guys were hired and some of these guys weren't. But to me, as the guy who runs a process, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that all of these guys were able to learn more about themselves, figure out a way to move forward more effectively, just to be a better human and be a better operator. And hopefully the ones that haven't been hired will consider coming back in the future. And the ones who were hired will continue to get better as they prepare to transition up here next summer. Some of the lessons that stick out in here that if you have listened to these podcasts over the years, you will have heard many of these tips before. But I think it's even more poignant to hear it coming from dudes who just witnessed some of these dark moments and these demons in the last couple of days before they recorded these podcasts. And if you recall from episode 4, a lot of the guys had already been challenged with some of those demons. And then later that night when they moved into exfil, more were on the way because that's what that event is really meant to do. You'll also hear how different candidates process the experiences, the hard things, a little bit differently than others. You'll hear one candidate say, really, exfil wasn't that stressful at all. And I love this mindset. I wish everybody could be in this mindset because then you just let go of all the crap that you can't control, all the fear, all the when is it going to end, all the man, my hands hurt. You just let go of all that and you get task focused in the moment. And you're going to hear him talk about task focused instead of self-focused. It's the key. It's the key to almost everything we do to increase our performance in the moment. So you'll get to hear him talk about that. You get to hear others talk about how they were struggling, weren't able to keep up with the team, and some of the other candidates, i.e. Charlie 3-2, helped one of the guys out, showed him some techniques, kind of pulled him back from his mental demons, and kept him in the game for the rest of the night. So not only did this guy get to finish, he also got to learn some lessons, and 3-2 got a chance to coach and mentor people out there too, which I'm telling you, for people like 3-2, that probably was as motivating to him as anything else, for him to be able to give some inputs to a guy who's willing to be open and receive them, and then watch that guy perform better as the night proceeded. All right, this is going to be a good one. I hope y'all enjoyed this series. I might do an episode just kind of recapturing all the thoughts and all the lessons that I want the listener to take away, especially for the guys who are going to come up here in the future, so you know what to focus on and how to be better prepared when you come up here. Because what I tell the guys on day one, if you don't perform well, you give us dirty data to make decisions off of. If you don't perform and be authentic when you're up here, we are going to have to make a decision off of data that doesn't represent you cleanly. And although you don't control the final decision, nor do I, the best thing you can do and the best position you can put yourself in is to come up here and give us the cleanest data possible about you, so we can make a decision whether you are a good fit for us or not. And then at the end, you know, if we say yes, you gave it your best shot and we saw the value. If we say no, then you know at least you showed them exactly who you are and they made the best decision possible on that data. As always, I truly appreciate you guys tuning in to the Insight Thru Experience podcast. Thanks for joining us. Let's go.
Charlie 1-1, how would you describe the experience you had today? Just hot and heavy. Since the last one of these, just more events, exfil, and recovery, and yeah, it was a lot. I mean, it was incredible though, just because you feel up to this point or that point in the process that you're about, tapped out on energy, effort, and give a shit, but you just keep doing tasks, and you rally behind the feeling of every time you get one, you want to win. And so it's just one more thing. And while you think you're tired, you just orient on the problem and send it. And that's kind of the culmination being exfil, which is pretty awesome. So it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. My performance, I think that was my attitude going in, was every task is, we're getting closer to the finish line, and it's just execute violently, whether it's a 40% solution or the best idea I've ever come up with. Just grab a hold, rally the boys, and execute violently in the direction of winning. I don't think I performed as physically well as I wanted to on the exfil. I think I got better as the night went on, but individually I would say that my max abilities currently as they stand just are a little short of where they need to be. And I just need to, improve that overall. But I was also in that same vein, I think while my individual abilities lacked in certain areas, the team environment, I think I was pretty effective in just blocking out the demons when things were real bad during exfil, and just contributing my ass off to the team. And then keeping all those feelings to myself. What do I need to improve upon for tomorrow? Yeah, I think I already went over it. Like the 724 assessment program was great for getting physically ready for the combine and certain other physical events. And it was good for the amount of rucking, but you really just can't replicate the effort that goes into the exfil type event. And it really shows you where your max is. And I mean, just the reality of it is some guys' max, is way better than others. And, I'm not on the top half of that. But I like the idea that I can get there, and just doing this program showed me that I can perform better and better and better. And so the continuous improvement process, just loving fitness and getting on the train to reset, I guess, my red line over to where some of these other guys are at. If you could go back in time and prepare for what you did today, what would you do and why? So the problem-solving events, that's going to come at you whether you like it or not, and could go back in time. I don't know that I would do anything different to prepare for the problem-solving. I think that just is what it is, and it's in the moment, and the only thing in the process you can do is just take the feedback you've been given and try to apply it. And I do think I fell short in some of those areas, communication being one of them. The over-communication's been a theme. And when we're in the moment trying to problem solve, I've been trying to be more concise, but you want to attack the situation with some violence of action, and I think I lost sight of that on occasion or several times. And then just physically, but I already touched on that. I would have, whether it's more rucking or suffering or whatever it is, to be included in the program, something to just be a little on the higher end level for exfil type event. What's adding the most stress to you so far in the process, and why? And how are you dealing with it? It was just sleep deprivation. There's a point in time in the middle of the night, whether it's infill or exfil, where your body kind of just wants to start shutting down, whether it's just because it says it's time to sleep or because you haven't eaten or drank enough, and now you're physically just degrading. And so just remembering this why and just pushing the demons out. And every candidate was dealing with that. That's kind of the next step question. Everybody is pushing those demons out, trying to figure out what's going on. And then who performed well today? Call sign only, and what do they do that stood out to you? So I think on my team, Charlie 37, he's a young kid, but man, he is a stud, and he's got such a positive mental attitude all the time, and he just loves to learn. He runs out of events to give feedback to people and to give feedback to himself, and it's just really cool to see the motivation from such a young guy with aspirations, and he's just totally bought into the process this week. And man, it's just fun to see him run around like a wild animal and then come back in and just with a big smile on his face. So Charlie 37.
Charlie 12. How would you describe your experience you had today? Man, hard is an understatement. I've been through some rough things in my time in my 14 years in the military. I knew I was going to come out with swollen hands and feet, and today you're going to be nice and stiff. But when Mr. Freeze says that you don't know your red line, that's so true, because I thought that I was pushing it as hard as I could, and I was hitting my limits, and I wasn't going to complete the next iteration, or I was going to fail at the next thing. But it's almost like finding enlightenment. When you're able to hit an all-time low with how your body feels and how your mind is almost to its breaking point. There's like a flush that goes through you where now it's almost like you can't be hurt anymore. They can't break you anymore, and you actually get better. And it's a whole new way of like looking at what your body can do and your mind can do. You become tougher for it. And I think everybody saw that this week, and if you didn't, or at least yesterday, and if you didn't, then you weren't pushing yourself hard enough. How did you perform today? What did you do well? And what do you need to improve upon for tomorrow? Looking back at before we went and did exfil, we had 1 or 2 more exercises that focused on problem solving and interpersonal effectiveness. I really focused on the problem side of it, and trying to stay out of that street light, because that street light's easy to gravitate to. It's what you know. It's kind of what you pick out of the directions on what they're reading and what they want you to do. Looking outside of that and trying to critically think and critically problem solve was something that I thought I did well on like the shoot house exercise. It's chaos. There's extra stress added to it. But when you're able to take a second and really work through what's the problem, what's the biggest hang up, what's the friction areas. Obviously we didn't complete the task, but it was really good to kind of work through it, speak out loud, talk to the instructors, and problem solve to try to complete it. And we came up with a couple good solutions. If we had a few more reps, we could have been there. What I need to improve on, I think it'd be my confidence. Some people are just naturally more confident in their abilities. I think if you are able to come into this confident on what you provide to a team and how well you can perform, then you're just naturally going to do better. And you saw that in other candidates. You could tell who was confident and who was sure in their actions, and nothing was really holding them back. If you come here not confident, I think I struggle with that, then you're going to be a little timid. You're going to be a little hold-offish. You're not going to speak up as much, and it's going to hurt the team and especially yourself. If you go back in time and prepare for what you did today, what would you do and why? Looking back at the resources I had coming here, I worked a lot with my POTIF team, but I would definitely suggest that to anybody else, is hook up with your POTIF team, especially the psych doc, and develop your why early. Really understand why you want to come here, and know how to pull yourself out of dark times. If you have a mantra or something you can center yourself on, because you're going to get there. I definitely got there about halfway into infill. I mean, everybody says that's the darkest time. You're all by yourself. It's the middle of the night. The night goes on for what feels like eternity, and you're thinking you got to be almost there, but the sun's never coming up. Everybody, you can see it on their faces. Everybody starts to slow down. Everybody starts to feel sorry for themselves. And I had to say out loud that you're not going to hurt me. Like, keep pressing. And towards the end, so the first first third, I was high in spirits. I was pressing through. In the middle, I kind of hit that low phase, but then I had to dig deep in myself and say, this is not how I want to be remembered. Why am I doing this? And I kind of just shut everything down. I got rid of all the pains in my body, and I just pressed harder and harder and harder. And if you're able to harness that with one of the professionals at your unit before you come here, know how to do that, then I think that would greatly help being successful here. What adds the most stress to you so far in this process, and how are you dealing with it? And are other candidates dealing with the same stressors? And if not, then what? I think majority of my stress was within, talking about the confidence and not being able to control what was going to happen next and always think about what you're going to do next. I think that was the hardest part for me. I believe that most regular people and most of the candidates going through this are always thinking about that too. Like, you want to focus on what's going on right now, but I think most of the stress comes from within, and it's always criticizing yourself on how you're doing now and how you did on the last exercise. And the best advice I can give is whatever you just did, process it, think about how you're gonna move past it, and then bury it, get rid of it, because this whole new problem that's coming next is going to be completely different. Whatever you're thinking about now isn't going to help you for the next task. So get rid of it, clear your head, know your capabilities, and go into it strong. Who performed well today, call sign only, and what did they do that stood out? Charlie 3-2. I think you're going to get the same response from everybody that does this, because 3-2, man, he was insane. Endless drive. When you think about a 2-4 operator, like he embodies that. I think he's got natural leadership skills. He's the epitome of the type of man that you want next to you. Hardworking, dedicated. He's reliable. He's going to do anything that you're going to need. He's gonna have your back. I saw him handing out food to other guys. I saw him motivating people when just looking on everybody's face and seeing how dark it was and down everybody was. And we didn't know how many iterations we had coming. And for him, it didn't matter. It was just the next one and then the next one. So I think he outperformed everybody in this whole week. It really shows how dedicated he is and how hardworking he is.
All right, good morning. My call sign's Charlie 13, and first question is, how would you describe the experience you had today? I would describe it as amazing, because after all the things that I've been through during this selection process, getting all the way up to this point, just realizing all the things that I never thought I could actually do. It was just a good feeling to be able to wake up today and have a lot more confidence in my abilities. How did I perform today? What did I do well? What do you need to improve upon for tomorrow? I think I performed well today. I think I just did a good job of, taking care of priorities of work, just taking care of my body, recovery, especially after the long events that we had last night. I knew I was going to wake up and be completely sore, so I tried to do as much as I could to prep for the next morning. So what do I need to improve upon for tomorrow? I think I just need to just take the experiences that I've learned so far and just kind of apply them to my normal daily life, and just try and hold myself accountable to being a better person in every aspect, as far as like family and at work. So next question. If I go back in time and prepare for what I did today, what would I do and why? I think if I could go back in time, I would just, really try and deep dive, the attributes and look at my weaknesses and strengths a little better, because I feel like I have a better understanding now of the attributes and how they apply after using them in this process. I think I look at the attributes differently than I did before. And then, all right, next question. What's added the most stress to me so far in the process? How am I dealing with it? So I think right now at this point, something that's adding a little bit of stress is hoping that my performance was enough, and hoping that, everything that I did was thought out, and I just really feel like I did put my best foot forward. I tried to give everything I could to certain situations, but I'm just hoping it's enough. I'm just trying to just let the process be itself, and just it's going to tell me whether or not I was pushing myself as hard as I possibly could. And then are other candidates dealing with the same stress or something different? I can't really speak for every candidate, but I would say for the most part, a lot of the guys were pushing themselves to the max, and I could tell they were showing up every day, and they were really getting after it, and it was nice to see, especially from some of the young guys. So who performed well today, and what did they do that stood out? I think Charlie won too. I think he's performed well overall through the course, and definitely today he's stepping up, as a leader, and he's, just being there for the team, and he's giving direction, and I think he's doing well. So
Charlie 2-5.
How did I perform today? I think problem solving, I felt like I was a little behind. I just did not feel creative when we were in the shoot house problem. What did I do well? I think just physically I really performed. We'll see what other people thought, but I think I was constantly looking for work. I don't think I took a break all night. What do I need to improve upon for tomorrow? Well, we're here tomorrow, and there's not much except feedback today, but if I can improve upon things for just going forward, I would say it would be my problem solving. I'm feeling a lot more confident with my communication throughout the week. So I'm just going to keep working probably my most critical aspects, which for right now I feel is problem solving. If I could go back in time and prepare for what I did today, what would I do and why? I think almost everybody would say more grip strength training. Like, you can never have too much. I felt like my grip was pretty strong all the way from the beginning of the week. I felt like I was at the top of the group as far as grip strength and carrying events. But you could always have more. When you're running for 8 hours with a jerry can, like, you're gonna hit failure there. So luckily I was able to, I had a really good front rack. I was able to carry jerry cans like that for a long time and kind of save my grip. But more is always better with grip strength. So what's adding the most stress to me so far in the process? How am I dealing with it? I think from this past day, the most stress for me is still trying to come up with creative solutions to problems. It kind of freezes my brain and makes me like just spin my wheels trying to just rack my brain for ideas. And then I feel like I am underperforming, and other people notice it, and maybe they have a good idea that I didn't hear or they didn't share with me, and they're like, they could be thinking that this guy just can't think clearly. How am I dealing with that? Just like with everything else, I take the feedback and I just let it wash over me, kind of internalize it and put it in the past, because I know there's plenty of things that I am good at, and everything else I can keep working on. Other candidates dealing with the same stress or something different. I feel like when it comes to problem solving, I actually think a lot of people struggle with coming up with novel solutions to to problems that are just put on them very quickly. So trying to kind of spitball and brainstorm on a short timeline, I feel like is pretty difficult for most people. But I'd also say that half the team were really struggling with the physical aspect, getting caught up with being on the bad side of the road and being stuck there. Like, once they're smoked, they're getting less recovery, and they're just starting to spin down a bad cycle to just stay on the bad side of the road. Who performed well today? I'm going to go with Charlie 4-7. The thing that he did that stood out to me was finishing second on that final jerry can carry to the finish line. I mean, everybody is completely redlined at this point, and you have to just finish putting it all out there, and he really surprised me with how fast he was able to do that. that was just really impressive because I've known him for a long time, and I know that he's a stud, but that's a tough event. So anybody that finishes at the top, that is very impressive.
Charlie 3-3, how would you describe the experience you had today? The experience I had today was eye-opening. There's no way I would have thought before that I had the capability to accomplish what we just did with the amount of sleep that we had. It's incomprehensible, but you really kind of find out what you can do. How did you perform today? I think I performed well on one of the problem solvings, not so well on another. Definitely still room for improvement on both. But I think I performed well again on we had some physical training iterations prior to exfil. I gave it all for those, put out for those. I think I did well on them. And then for exfil, I think I did a good job of teetering the line. There's a couple times I thought I was going to push myself a little too hard past the line and not be able to recover. But I still was able to get to that limit and come back down successfully. What do I need to improve upon for tomorrow? Still, definitely problem solving needs work, right? So I have to figure out a solution for me that's gonna a process, I guess, or set of processes that's gonna work for me, because I still don't have that nailed down for sure. If you could go back in time and prepare for what you did today, what would you do and why? Without a doubt, training in a capacity where you are pushing yourself to the absolute limit that you can at that time. And then the most important part of that is being able to bring yourself back down and still accomplish recovery while you're doing that. Because you're going to have times here where you're going to do something very hard and you're going to have very little time before you do it again. And it's going to be just as hard or harder the next time. So you got to be able to bring yourself back down and know how your body recovers. Training your body to recover both actively and passively. What's adding the most stress to you so far in the process? So at this time, I'm not going to say I'm stress-free, but post-exfil, it's the stress, a lot of it's been lifted. You know, you're mostly done. However, there's still the decision to be made, so that's definitely a stressor. I feel much better. Not that it's complete, but that I did it. And I feel like I did it mostly successfully. Are other candidates dealing with the same stress or something different? I feel like something different some candidates could be dealing with is like, did I put it all out? Did I save anything? I think that's definitely, because there's not one iteration where you want to save anything unless you know for a fact you're going to redline. Who performed well today, and what did they do that stood out to you? 3-2 was absolutely crushing it on every single iteration on exfil. That dude's a machine. 4-5, also a machine. I couldn't see who else was up there. 1-2, I believe. Those are probably the main ones that stick out to me. 2-6. 2-6 came out of nowhere. We had an iteration where we were teammates for exfil, and he thoroughly surprised me. I started out actually trying to push him, and then he took that and ran with it, and it was like, damn, dude, let's go. So I think we pumped each other up in that, but that's it.
Charlie 4-3, how would you describe the experience you had today? It was definitely the hardest physically and mentally experience that I've ever had. I felt like very quickly I was in kind of uncharted or unknown territory in terms of how my body was feeling, like what what I was doing and then kind of how I was reacting to that. Like, it was, I mean, looking back, it was, I think, pretty incredible to experience that and to see it. But in the moment, I was, in a place I'd never been before. So it was very, very revealing into how I handle that and kind of where I truly was. Yeah, but it was a good rewarding experience. Like, I'm very proud to have gone through it with the team that I went through it with, because I know it wasn't easy. Not everyone gets this opportunity. So I think to be able to be sitting here, like, recording this now, is an honor and a privilege. Next question: how did you perform today? Be honest, I'm not happy with my performance, especially during exfil. That I just, like I said earlier, was in a different area, different headspace, different everything, and felt like I had a lot to overcome kind of throughout that, like during that time. Whereas I felt like if I was better prepared, maybe wouldn't have had to overcome so much in the moment. What did you do well? See, though I would say my performance wasn't where it was or in relation probably to the rest of the group, I feel like I did well at, like, continuing on, because oftentimes I would have the shortest amount of rest before our next event. So the fact that I was able to, like, do what I could to get fluids and food in me, and then just know that I'm gonna have to do it again. And then regardless of what was going on in my head, I just told myself, like, I will not quit. Like, that's not what I came here to do. I'm not going through all this just to quit. What do you need to improve upon for tomorrow? Well, after kind of having what I learned from today, I can improve by, like, now I have a knowledge or reference base for what my red line is and what I really am capable. So I think to improve upon that for tomorrow would be just taking that to heart and keeping that at the center, knowing that, like, I almost always have more to give. If you go back in time and prepare for today, what would you do and why? Definitely should have been training harder and, like, longer duration events. I knew grip strength was a big part of the selection process, but I did not adequately prepare for that. And then just doing, like, mentally hard things, I didn't do. I feel like a lot of my training, though it wasn't easy. I feel like I prepared myself physically. It was just the getting my body to a point of failure, or when those doubts and those thoughts trickling into your mind, and then, like, then doing those hard things. So I definitely would have taken a much better approach to how I prepared myself coming to this. But then in terms of like, going into exfil, I foolishly didn't drink or eat enough. I should have been much better hydrated, because that was kind of an issue that contributed to my performance. But that should have been an easy fix and shouldn't have been like that. What's adding the most stress to you so far in the process? Definitely the mental side of kind of how everything feels and how everything's going. I feel like yesterday was hard because I, like, just felt like I was kind of a detriment to the team, just because I couldn't keep up. That really kind of weighed on me, and I wasn't really happy or proud to have been that guy. How are you dealing with it? I think there's still, like, kind of positives to look back on it, because I do feel like I improved, like, throughout the night. And then just still knowing the fact that, like, though I might have not finished where I wanted to, or not been as prepared as I wanted to, like, I still like, went along. I still did the work, though it was, not the same or the same level as maybe everyone else, or who were better prepared or just more in it. But I can look back and be proud of the fact that I still finished. I still pushed through, and I didn't let those failures or any of that get to me. Are the other candidates dealing with the same stress or something different? Well, I mean, I think we're all kind of dealing with, obviously like our bodies being wrecked and stuff like that. But I think we all kind of probably realized or came to the conclusion that maybe we didn't know a red line and we found it during that. So I think we're all pretty similar in that sense. There's obviously going to be people who are going to be more able to look back and be like, I'm proud because they performed at a high level and were able to do what they set out to do. Who performed well today, and what did they do that stood out to you? I have to say Charlie 3-2. He helped me tremendously when we were together for one of the iterations. Really kind of blew me away with the fact that how much time he was putting into, even while we were moving, while we were working, into like checking up on me and kind of just talking me through some things. Like he wasn't even focusing on himself or whatever. He was just moving, and then he was just talking to me, like giving me just like kind of ways to kind of calm down and like kind of recenter myself. And I think that really helped me turn the course for the night, and really kind of adapt to kind of where I needed to be or to improve. That just really, I think that was probably the best thing that happened of the night, was being paired with him for that event, because it really kind of helped pull me out of the place I was, and kind of helped me track forward. So I was really glad I got to experience that with him, because that helped me a lot.
All right, this is candidate 4-5. We are post-exfil. So how would you describe the experience? That was probably the most amount of physical work that I think was physically doable in the allotment of time that we had in the field. It was kind of nuts, doing it all with zero sleep essentially led to some pretty wild experiences. However, I would say it was like in hindsight, it can be hard to keep the gratitude for the opportunity in perspective when you're going through it. I think that's true of everybody, but in hindsight, it's a very valuable experience and exciting to be a part of, and it was cool. How did you perform today? What did you do well? What do you need to improve upon for tomorrow? I think for exfil, honestly, I think I crushed it. I'm pretty excited about my performance on it, and no, as for what I did well, no, I got strong hands. And what do I need to improve upon for tomorrow? I did about as well as I possibly could have hoped for. I'm gonna just give myself a sustain for that. If I could go back in time and prepare for what I did today, what would you do and why? I'd hold things in my hands for a really long time, and then do it some more, and then do it some more, and then walk really far. Do lots of pull-ups, just because, and dead hangs from a bar. Take your hands, make sure you're not gonna have any calluses rip off, or make sure you're not gonna blister. One of the things I see a lot of people do, which I'm not sure why, is wear gloves during group events. This is it. I mean, teach their own, but I think that's stupid. Gloves get slippery and they have very little traction when they're wet. And I mean, like, your hands will never slip by comparison. And so I would just use the piece of equipment that we're born with, it's designed to do the job. I genuinely think that a lot of people were at a disadvantage because they wore gloves. You might prevent a blister or two, but it's not worth it. What's adding the most stress to you so far in the process? How are you dealing with it? I didn't find exfil stressful, to be honest. It was a good time. I think the only thing that possibly could have been stressful about it was the amount of physical work. But it also had the opportunity to compete. And I mean, like, that's awesome. If you don't want to do that, then what are you even doing? I suppose another possible stressor could be, worrying about your performance, but if you just put out, you don't really have to worry about your performance. How are the other candidates dealing with the same stress or something different? I think some of the other candidates weren't really living in the moment during exfil, and I don't know if that was causing them to have trouble for the individual events or what it was, just being in their own head or whatever. But I would say that if there's anything that can help you with, not just with the suspense selection process, but anything in life, it's a good dose of task-directed focus. When you have a task, you should just focus on it, and you should execute it as best you can. Thinking about other stuff just isn't really productive. If if you're trying to carry a jerry can as far as you can, thinking about, hey, I'm going to push myself to that chem light, or I'm going to push myself to that tree, and then I'm going to give myself a 2-second break, and I'm going to keep going. Making a strategy like that is way more productive than being like, oh, damn, this sucks. Or, my back hurts and my grip is failing. Like, that's going to happen to everybody. There's a productive method of thinking, and then there's unproductive. And unproductive thinking is anything that is not the task at hand. Who performed well today, and what did they do that stood out to you? I'm shouting out 3-2 once again, like I think I've done on pretty much every single one of these videos. That dude was a super stud and absolutely crushed it. Organized the team for team events and performed incredibly well on his own, and was on the correct side of the road every single time. Also, 3-3 and 2-1 are both physical specimens and absolutely put out and crushed it. I'm sure there are people I'm missing. To be honest, it's, when you're on 2-3 days of no sleep, everybody kind of looks the same when everybody's wearing kit and helmet, and you see all kinds of things. Chem lights in the distance look like all sorts of stuff when you're that sleep deprived. But yeah, there were some seriously cool performances from exfil, and it was a badass event. And even though it sucked at the time and pretty beat up today, that stuff's all temporary and that memory's forever. So yeah, come get after it. Don't wait.
Charlie 4-1. How would you describe your experience you had today? I'd say all the events of last night leading up to now have been honestly just very motivating. It was a definitely grueling process, one of the hardest things I've done. I'm sure that a lot of the guys in this process have done. But just being able to do that as a team and just see guys that are just hard dudes is super motivating. And then afterwards, just being able to shake the hands of the instructors, the cadre, it's awesome, because I think we really look up to those guys, just their professionalism in this process and the feedback that I've gotten. Like, I really respect them, and I guess all they had to offer for us in this process. How did you perform? What did you do well? What do you need to improve upon for tomorrow? I feel like I performed well, and I was honestly just truly impressed at how just physically capable some guys were out there doing that exfil, because I feel like I'm a pretty fit individual. I was moving, but there's some guys that could just straight move with a jerry can. But I'd say overall I performed pretty well. I just had a lot of experience on gear movements just from the CCS pipeline, and I feel like me and a lot of the controllers
kind of knew our way around here, handling a litter and a jerry can, and kind of felt like I was getting back in that mode at CCS where it's just like, just go, 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 and you almost like, once you start doing a movement, you forget about the pain in your body and everything that's hurting. So I felt like we did pretty well at that. Things to improve upon for what's remaining in this process, I'd say just soak in the feedback, and then be able to give just really good feedback to all the guys. It's tough having to recall everything, because that recency bias is definitely a thing. But I think kind of the last bits to improve upon is just being able to give really good feedback to the remaining to the candidates in our time remaining. If you go back in time and prepare for what you did today, what would you do and why? I'd say practice a little bit more carrying a jerry can with like the hugging method. So in my training, on my ruck runs, I would try to do half whatever distance with a jerry can of carrying it. But I think I would practice a little bit more just that bear hugging method. But I feel like overall my practice of just rucking with a jerry can helped a good bit. And then of course mileage, like the more miles you can get on your feet coming into this process, the better. What's adding the most stress to you so far in this process? How are you dealing with it? Are other candidates dealing with the same stress or something different? I'd say at this point now, everyone no one's really talking about it, but they just want to know overall, in the eyes of the instructors, like, how did they do? Not that's super stressful, but that's, I think, what is in the back of everyone's mind right now, that we're going to get feedback later. And it sounds like the coach will give us feedback as well. But I think just that thought in everyone's head of like, how did I do compared to them, and the standards that they set at the 2-4 is something that everyone's thinking about right now, and just wants to know. Who performed well? What did they do that stood out to you? I'd say an individual that jumped out to me was 2-6. I feel like he, a lot of times, was kind of the guy on the team that just, maybe wouldn't take as much work, but during the movement last night, he entered a different zone. He was motivated. He was out there not to just survive the night, but beat the other team. And he definitely grinded. I was impressed and enjoyed going through that with him, and just seeing how motivated he was last night to actually win. So I'd say Charlie 2-6.